Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Sarah, and my partner Dan. We're a movie podcast and we cover 8 films per season on a specific theme. Now, we swear, we chat major spoilers, and we occasionally cover triggering topics, so please do use listener discretion. If you like what we do and want to support us, consider hitting 5 stars on Spotify, or maybe subscribing or even reviewing on your platform of choice. We also have a Patreon with a free tier for lineups and updates, and 2 paid tiers with extra content and early ad-free uploads. Right, on with the show.
Hey, Sarah.
Dan. I nearly said Daniel.
Did you? Ooh, and I'm not even in trouble. Am I in trouble?
No.
You didn't middle name me.
I didn't know.
That's when I'm in big trouble. Daniel Christopher. Why have you weaved in your toy box again? Ooh,
Which is a phrase I often use.
Yeah. Oh, I went back to a different time then, which is kind of relevant, isn't it? We the second movie in your season of films about drugs.
Yep.
What are we talking today?
So today we're talking about Synchronic, which I hadn't realised when I programmed it in. It's quite a divisive film.
I didn't know that.
No, I don't know. I was fairly early on the Benson and Moorhead train.
I was going to ask you this.
I was an early adopter, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, you knew about them first.
Yeah, that makes me cooler.
I knew all about Benson and Moorhead before they even made their first movie.
Yep.
I knew it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So early adopted it. So what was the first Moorhead
Resolution.
So you saw that first, and then you saw The Endless.
I think I saw Resolution, and I think I saw Spring next. Actually,
I forget Spring. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched Spring with a previous partner who hated it, and his feeling of that movie really affected my enjoyment of it. So a few years passed, I went back because I was like, maybe I'll give this another go. People seem to really love it. I watched it. I just thought it was fantastic. I don't know what I was thinking.
I don't know what you were thinking because I've seen that movie. We've watched it together.
Yeah.
And it feels so you.
Yeah, I know, right?
The film is so up your street that if you'd have told me, if we'd had a conversation before, you said, I've seen this, I can't stand it. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Do I even know you? I forget that Spring's in there because it's the order Resolution, Spring, The Endless, Synchronic, Something in the Dirt?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, you're right. Spring is very much up my alley. But it does feel like somewhat of an outlier amongst their other films.
I guess so. It's funny how a lot of their films deal with the concept of time, whether that is in this movie Synchronic that we'll get to, but quite literally time travel.
Mm-hmm.
There are other movies that it's difficult. You don't want to spoil certain movies, but it's a movie podcast. It's a free for all. So if you haven't seen Endless, switch off. But that movie deals with time loops.
Mm-hmm. So does Resolution.
As well as Resolution does as well, does it? Okay. And even Spring, it's, again, switch off if you haven't heard it, but it's a film podcast, so it's fair game. It's Spring.
Is that just what you're going to say now?
Yeah.
Fuck you if you haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
Fuck off. Yeah. Your way to bring in new audiences, tell them to fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah, great work, Dan. Good thinking.
It's going to endear us to everybody.
Already spoken about urinating in a box and telling people to fuck off.
I mean...
And we expect people to listen to this?
Yeah, when you say it like that, it's a tall ask.
We've said worse.
True.
But spoilers for Spring, that movie is about living for a very long time, right? Like being immortal. And that's also like a timey thing. How much time have I got thinking about death and putting it off and all of that stuff? So I think they're all similar they have some similar ideas. I bet.
Yeah, they explore a lot of the same themes over and over, for sure.
Not to spoil it, but I don't care, let's spoil it if you haven't. Not doing that again. Something in the Dirt. What was that about? It was a lockdown film, right? It was...
Yeah, it was just the two of them again. I think there were a couple of other people in it, but it was mostly just the two of them in like an apartment building. Some weird time stuff. Also maybe aliens? Aliens.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like that can sort of sum up any of their films. Some weird timey-wimey stuff. Also, maybe Aliens,
Maybe
question mark.
Aliens, but not really talked about. Why do we think it's Aliens? I don't remember that movie at all, I've got to be honest. I remember them being in an apartment.
Maybe Aliens is going in the wrong direction. Maybe Eldritch Horror is perhaps a better description.
Okay.
Not least because, like, The Endless starts with a quote from H.P. Lovecraft, and there's a lot of, like, the unseen, unknowable horrors.
Yeah. There's definitely a through line between, we watched The Endless last night, a through line between The Endless and Nope, which you pointed out. And that was very interesting to think about while we were watching it.
Yeah, in terms of like being watched over by some sort of entity and how that correlates to our position as an audience and what are we responsible for?
Yeah, our relationship to the viewer. Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting to think about. They actually worked with Jordan Peele on an episode of The Twilight Zone, apparently.
Oh, right. Okay.
I haven't seen any of that show.
No, I haven't. I heard reasonably good things. I will say, I think I've seen pretty much everything that they've done, with the exception of maybe a few episodes of stuff. But I think I really enjoy their feature-length projects, not so much the other stuff. Loki was good.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much. Do you know how much kind of creative control they were allowed for that? Were they actually the showrunners?
I believe so.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, you're doing Marvel, probably not. I mean, certainly not as much control as you would have over your own £50,000
well, this is why I'm asking.
Project set in one room. It is interesting that I was thinking about this in the shower, that they've gone from your lowest of the, I don't mean it's a pejorative sense, like a low budget indie movie.
Well, Resolution had a budget of 20,000.
Right, it was 20,000.
So peanuts.
Even less than I thought. So it's interesting that they've gone from that, and then I don't know what the budget was for Spring. Obviously more, I'm guessing, and Synchronic, The Endless and Synchronic were probably more and more again. Synchronic had a budget of about 4 million.
I read 4, but I also saw 2.5 in a different reference. Okay. So unsure.
Okay. But it's interesting that they've gone from very, very low budget to the biggest budgets that you can probably get with the superhero stuff, and not much, nothing in between, really. They've gone from one extreme to the other. And I wonder what that experience shift is like. They've returned multiple times. Yeah. So they did Loki season 2, and they did Moon Knight. I think they must have done Moon Knight before Loki.
They did some of Moon Knight. They did. They also. I don't know how much involvement they had, but they also directed at least one episode of Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah. Well, I just think that they were showrunners on all of these.
Were they?
I think
right.
so, yeah.
Okay.
So they probably directed the first or a couple of episodes and oversaw it, kind of thing. I think that's generally how those things work.
Well, yeah, because I guess Kevin Feige's just sitting around going, right, time guys. Who are the time guys?
Yeah.
We can't afford Christopher Nolan. Somebody put feelers out to Benson and Moorhead. I mean, who's going to turn down that opportunity?
The money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
well,
and not just the money, but the potential for getting future projects greenlit as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've listened to them on podcasts, and they speak a lot about the networking side of things, where you can just go out, particularly in LA, to a bar and meet someone, and they know someone and they become your friends. And so at the very least, they're probably going to be building up more of a network of people and getting more interesting or more personal projects to them greenlit, which I watch some of the Marvel shows and I like some of them, but I tend to not get that excited about the shows anymore, just because it's such a big commitment, and most of them have been mediocre, really, at best, with a few exceptions. Maybe the ones that they've done, actually, like Loki. I liked
Loki was definitely one of the better ones.
They didn't do season 1, but they did season 2, I believe. I quite liked Moon Knight. You weren't huge on that, were you?
I wasn't a massive fan, no.
I quite enjoyed it, and Daredevil I thought was okay. It was pretty good. I thought it had its moments.
It was like a season of setup, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. But I mean, I can't say that I'm not disappointed, because I would like them to carry on making their own weird little fucking movies, like Synchronic. Like, it's not my favourite of theirs, but it's unique and it's weird and it's about drugs, and it fits in this season quite squarely and neatly, even if it is a made up drug.
Well, this is it. When I was programming this season, I was like, what are my parameters? And there was another film with a made-up drug that I was toying with, and I was like, I can't really have both of them.
Was it The 51st State?
No.
With Robert Carlyle?
No, this is just Robert Carlyle season, actually. Yeah. No, it wasn't, but I will talk about that in the wrap show. I chose this one because we watched it when it came out, and I remember quite enjoying it. And then we watched it again a week ago, and I quite enjoyed it again. So I was really shocked to see some of the dissent online.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned that earlier. I had no idea. I guess I just assumed that everyone, obviously these films are not for everyone, but particularly big film fans such as us and possibly the people listening, would be well into that kind of independent, new ideas, unique kind of feel. I don't think Synchronic's my favourite of theirs.
Agreed.
But I think it's a very good movie, and it's just different. And I wonder what it is about it that's so divisive, because I don't think it has a particularly strong, and maybe that's part of the reason that it doesn't fare quite as well as their other movies to me, but it doesn't feel like it has a very strong stance on anything really. It's more of a presentation of this scenario. Maybe we'll get into it and I'll have different ideas by the end of the show, but it feels like we were discussing it briefly, but like quite a simplistic movie. Even though it's about something weird and complicated, it doesn't like go down any roads that are super confusing or ambiguous. It's very this is what this film is. It's got Anthony Mackie in it. By the way, he's Captain America, don't you know? And this other guy, you probably don't recognise him with his trousers on, but it's Jamie Dornan. Dornan?
I don't know if it's Dorman or Dornan, or I don't know.
One of those is probably correct. We're sorry, Jamie.
Some Irish man.
Oh, he's Irish, is he?
He is, yes.
But he does American.
For the most part, yes. I could hear the accent creeping in.
Oh, could you?
Yeah.
You're very good at accents, though. I don't know how you do it.
Frustratingly so, though. It can be really distracting.
It pulls you out of it sometimes, doesn't it?
So it's not the greatest superpower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I quite like the leads. I think Anthony Mackie of the two is much better.
Do you?
I do, but I don't necessarily think that's I don't know. I don't think it's down to the actors 100%. I think Anthony Mackie is given a lot more to do, and I think because of the events in the film, I can't remember their names. This is character names. That's what I struggle with always. But the one whose daughter goes missing is
Jamie Dornan.
But I don't know his character name.
We'll call him Jamie Dornan.
Let's call him. He's just Jamie. Okay. So his teenage daughter goes missing. So that kind of necessitates him being a bit shut down, a bit maybe emotionally absent.
Yeah, he's very emotionally absent throughout the movie, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's not his movie. It's definitely Mackie's movie. Is it my favourite Anthony Mackie performance outside of The Night Before? Maybe. I don't know. We spoke about the new Captain, or the latest Captain America movie over on Patreon a little while ago, and we weren't blown away by his performance in that, were we?
I wasn't blown away by anything in that movie.
No, it was well, whatever.
I would go as far as to say it was arse.
Yeah. But I didn't think that he was great in that, and it might have been that he was trying to wear too many hats on that particular production. Maybe he was spread a bit thin, or maybe it was just a script. I don't know. But I think he's much better here.
Oh, massively, yeah.
And I wonder if that's just because they have a director with a very clear vision that's their vision, and it was probably a lot more relaxed on set. I don't know, like low budget, so maybe not. Maybe it was way more hectic, and I just don't know. But
there could have been a lot of factors. I mean, couple that with the fact that it's set and filmed in New Orleans, which is where Anthony Mackie's from.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So hometown for him might have also added to the fact that he was maybe a bit more enthusiastic about the project or felt more relaxed. I don't know.
That's interesting. Why was it set in New Orleans, do you think?
Don't know. I mean, besides that sort of subplot that's mentioned a couple of times with the like his family's burial plot and the flooding kind of meaning that the coffins were floating around, you're not necessarily going to get that anywhere else, because obviously New Orleans is quite specific in that the tombs are above ground because of the flooding, I believe.
Because of the water level. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously that comes up in the movie where his family's coffins rise up and are floating around, and he's facing his own mortality in the movie as well. So like, it's definitely about death, the impending death, the inevitability of it, and trying to shut that out, I guess, to a degree, and then looking into your past and wondering what time you've got left. I didn't think about the coffins from that angle before, about death literally coming up and floating towards your head, or whatever happens in that scene. But I was wondering why it was set in New Orleans. That's quite interesting. What else have we covered that's set in New Orleans?
That we've covered?
Yeah. I'll give you a clue. New Orleans is in the title of one of them.
Oh, Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah. Yes, I would like to set my movie in New Orleans.
Yeah.
You're a big fan of that area, aren't you? You enjoy New Orleans and that whole area of America, or at least aesthetically in movies.
I do, yeah. Like, I've never been, so there's definitely a part of me that kind of romanticizes it, and I don't know how much reality aligns with that, but I do enjoy it. Yeah, anything sort of set in the deep South, or particularly like Southern Gothic stuff, love it.
It has a real unique identity about it, doesn't it? Like, you can watch a film that's about New Orleans and know within moments, a few frames, probably where this movie is set or was filmed.
Would you call it America's Venice?
Yeah, sure.
Just in that it seems to be unlike any other place.
Yeah, I guess so. Less blokes with hats on singing at you.
Winning already.
Bit less opera, maybe.
Again, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And I liked Venice when I went, so...
Yeah, Venice is cool. It's like one of those places that you go, yep, cool, I've been here now. That was very interesting. Probably won't go again.
Well...
I liked it. Listen, I'm not negating it. It's a good place. You should go.
It is great. Also, when I went, I ate far too much pasta and bread and drank nothing but red wine and made myself quite ill. So nobody's going to put us on the Venice tourist board anytime soon, that's for sure.
I think I might already be on the Venice tourist board for other reasons, though.
I see. Do not allow this man back in.
On the last day, I remember just buying the big bottles of limoncello and just walking around Venice drinking it out of the bottle.
That sounds
over the bridge.
So you.
Yeah. I think I got it on the last day. I was like, why did I buy this entire thing? I better neck it all before we get on the plane. Yeah. I don't remember much about that day apart from that.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
So yeah, besides that, I don't really have any guesses at why it's set in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I don't know where Benson and Moorhead are from.
Me neither.
Maybe it's home to them as well. Who knows?
Who knows?
One thing that I keep reading in terms of people's complaints about this movie sort of ties into something that you said already, and that's that it is quite simple. Like, on the face of it, when you hear a story about, it's about people who take this designer drug and travel back in time, that sounds like it's going to be a real head scratcher on paper, but actually it's not at all. So I think a lot of people's complaints are that it sort of feels, while it's high concept, it's kind of dumbed down high concept.
I wouldn't agree that it's dumbed down. I would agree that they don't seem very interested in the effects of events, and like in Back to the Future is the obvious comparison whenever you're talking about time travel movies, but the idea that you go back and you affect your present. This movie is not interested in that. It doesn't do anything remotely like that. So you're not getting into paradoxes, really. You're not getting into that whole situation. So I guess people that are looking for movies about time travel are, by their very nature, probably looking for something a bit more complex. Whereas this is just, it's almost like just teleporting to another place. Like the fact that it's another time, apart from thematically, is largely irrelevant. And it could be, you could even look at it as more of a multiverse situation where you're traveling to a different dimension rather than a different time. It's weird, the time travel concept in this. It's unlike anything I've seen before. You take a drug and your perception of time is affected and you literally travel back. But you travel back to the place, the exact spot that you're standing in?
Yeah, so this is something that pissed me off. The exact same geographical location, But well, I guess the only one that it really matters for is the daughter. Right at the end, when Anthony Mackie kind of goes to retrieve her from whichever war she's landed in.
They were French. It was French soldiers, wasn't it?
So
I don't know much about history, but I was gonna bring this up. But so she's there, goes back there.
Well, there were French-speaking people in the Deep South.
But that's what I mean. Is that's relevant to the area, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
But what my point is that because the daughter had been there for quite some time, like she'd been there for days at that point?
Yeah.
So the exact geographical location wouldn't be the same, would it? Because that sort of depends on the Earth being static, which
is not.
Which it isn't.
No.
So the exact, just the phrasing of the exact same geographical location, it's never going to be. Not precisely.
No.
So some of those rules kind of made me roll my eyes a little bit.
I think when you're dealing with time travel, though, there's no kind of right answer. I think you can have I go back to the Future, and probably one of the most enjoyable and best interpretations of it.
But what, because it's theoretical at this point, you mean?
Well, it's theoretical, yeah. And so, yeah, most time travel movies, they call them, we're going back in time. But what you actually mean is, so you're going back in time and space, really, aren't you? Because you, like you say, everything's moving constantly and expanding. So if you're literally in the same spot in space, then you're just going to be floating around in nothingness, and your head's going to explode immediately. With I don't know what happens when you go eject a body into space.
Nothing good.
Nothing good. What happens in Event Horizon? You can just float through space for a bit, can't you? And it's fine.
I don't think anybody had a particularly great outcome in that movie.
But it's interesting, in that movie, the least threatening thing was space.
Yeah.
But you could it's just like, right, we're going to fly through space with no equipment on. What should I do? I'll just hold your breath.
Yeah, it'll be right.
Hold your breath. You're fine. Yeah. Maybe that's real. I would think it's probably not. But yeah, much like Event Horizon, this movie has little interest in the science of it, and I think it's one of those where you've just got to forget about it, because.
But I think do you not think that's an extension of the complaint I was just kind of making?
Yeah, no, that's why I said that. That's why I think.
But you said you didn't think it was dumbed down.
I don't think that it's dumbed down in the sense that thematically it's interesting and everything is relevant to it thematically. I suppose you could look at it as being dumbed down if you're just taking it on face value and they're not getting into the science. But I just don't think that's what this movie is.
No, so that's fair enough.
I wouldn't class it as dumbed down because they're not interested in going into the actual science of it. It's just take this pill and in 4 seconds when the pill starts to work, which is true of all drugs.
Look, in movies, all drugs and medication kicks in immediately. We know this.
I love it when in a movie there's an overweight guy at a restaurant who's having a heart attack. And then they're like, he goes, pills. And they pop a pill in his mouth and he's like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, thank God.
I'm alive again now. Yeah. Immediately.
Yeah.
I suppose in films you haven't got 3 hours for them to kick in sometimes. I don't know. I imagine. I don't know. I'm not talking from experience. I've heard this. Sometimes they can take a while to take effect.
Well, as somebody who was on beta blockers, that's one that always pissed me off.
Right.
It's like, you're going to sit there for another half an hour panicking until this fucking thing kicks in. Trust me.
Okay. Yeah. And out of all of them, that's the one you would want to work quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of the stuff that doesn't fully work in this. Like we've spoken about the geographical location. They do. One of my favourite movies in the scenes in the movie is where Mackie first learns about this drug literally making you travel in time, and he starts to run experiments, and he's got the little board, and he puts X's on the floor. If I stand in this spot, I'm going to get transported to the tundra. But just a few feet away, it's completely different. And I'm assuming it's the same location, but just a different time.
Yeah, the place you are physically affects the time that you go back to. Yeah, it seems.
The thing that I found most unrealistic about this is the fact that whatever time he went back to, he encountered humans.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas statistically, in the lifetime of the Earth, you're more likely to not ever see any fucking living thing at all. In fact, you're probably more likely to burn to death immediately as soon as you land, or freeze to death immediately. Like it's most of it the time it's been uninhabitable.
Yeah.
So it's lucky though that the drug just makes you go to bits where you can probably survive, but you might get a spear thrown at you.
That is lucky, yeah.
Yeah.
You just might get to see a woolly mammoth at one point.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. But they're bringing them back.
Oh, stop it.
They are.
I don't... Look.
That's what Joe Rogan says.
I don't listen to a fucking word that Joe Rogan says. And if I accidentally hear one, I don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Did he watch Jurassic Park? But yeah, so I have another question regarding time travel theory in all movies. Why do they only go in one direction?
What do you mean?
Well, it's always back in time.
Well, I guess the answer to that question is probably more expensive to go forward in time, because then you've got to build new stuff. Whereas if you go back in time, you could just rent a 60s action vehicle from the action vehicle place.
I don't care for that though. I want to see something where they go forward in time.
It does happen. It does happen. Have you seen a really interesting, thought-provoking movie called Time Cop?
I have.
Yeah. Well, that's. I suppose he does go back in time in that as well. But it starts in the future, and then he goes. No, it starts in the present, then goes to the future, and then he goes back to the present. It's very interesting and complex.
That's true.
And he does the splits in it.
Also, I'm pretty sure they go forward in time in the Paper Girls comics.
Oh yeah, okay, the Paper Girls. So we was that the Amazon show? Did they do an adaptation?
Yeah,
of
that
it?
they fucking dropped and forgot about, and then cancelled promptly.
Yeah, that seems like a super interesting, particularly at the end. I was kind of in for it. I liked it, but like the last episode, I was like, oh, okay, I really want to see where this goes. And
nope.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Comics are great, though.
Yeah.
You should read those.
So you say. Time travel movies in general. I mean, I'm a big fan of time travel movies, I would say. I do like them. I enjoy some time loop movies. I watched Groundhog Day recently, which I didn't enjoy nearly as much as I used to when I was a kid.
I don't know why you've got beef with Punxsutawney Phil. He's done nothing to you.
He got the start of spring wrong. That's my beef with him. I don't know whether to take a brolly or wear a tank top.
Look, he's a groundhog. I think we're putting way too much stock in what a groundhog says and does.
That whole fucking town puts way too much stock into what a groundhog does and says. Apparently it can talk human, or the mayor can talk groundhog. I don't really know what's happening in that movie. Yeah. It's a weird fucking movie.
It is a weird movie. Maybe the groundhog was like the Joe Rogan of his day. Unearned power.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can predict the weather. What's that other one? Palm Springs is a good one, isn't it? A good time loop movie. But time travel, I mean, you've probably got, you could probably count on one hand the amount of really great time travel movies. Back to the Future, I've mentioned. Avengers Endgame is one that I return to and enjoy a lot. Primer, time travel.
Do you count stuff like Donnie Darko in that realm?
I don't know, because it's interesting. What I was thinking about with Synchronic is it literally time travel, or could it be more of a multiverse situation? And I wonder if that can apply to Donnie Darko in my mind, if it's because things happen in that movie and then it's a split reality, right? So it's technically a multiverse. So it's been a long time since I've seen that film.
Yeah, maybe let's not go down that road now then.
I feel like it's more of a branch reality though there.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
And more of like a Star Trek situation where you've got Chris Pine and you've got William Shatner on the other side, which is another time travel movie. There are quite a few time travel concepts in Star Trek, actually. I like the one when they go back to the 80s and they have to rescue the whale. That's a good one.
That sounds great.
Have you seen it?
No.
You haven't seen it? Oh, that's a good one, Sarah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Back to Synchronic.
Yeah, right.
Not your weird geeky soap opera.
God, who's the one that's pissing off listeners now? We've lost way more from you dissing Star Trek than me talking about pissing in a box.
Still not as bad as William Shatner, like, dissing autistic people.
William Shatner.
Like, do you realise how many of those are your fans, sir? Talking about alienating your audience.
Yeah, it's not a great move, is it?
It's not.
But he's 500 years old now. He doesn't give a fuck, does he?
I don't think he's given a fuck for a while. But yes, Synchronic. So I think one of the things I found a little bit frustrating on this rewatch is, and I'm going to keep taking it back to this point, I guess, and that's that I guess I'm trying to agree with you in that it's not simplified, but I think it's sort of all spelled out for you in that first scene.
Remind me what the first scene was.
So the first thing we see are, well, interestingly, it opens on hands holding.
Right.
And it also ends on hands holding, sort of. But yeah, the first thing we see are the two, the couple who I think are in like a motel or...
Yeah, right. Yep.
I was going to say Airbnb, but I guess our American listeners won't know what the fuck that is.
They have Airbnb in America?
Oh, I guess so. I always think B&B is like such an English thing.
I suppose so.
Bed and breakfast.
They had it in that movie that we covered, which I definitely remember the name of.
Do you mean Barbarian?
Barbarian.
That's the one, yeah. And then they take the drug and then sort of materialize elsewhere.
Yeah.
She gets bitten by a snake and I can't remember what happens to him.
Is that the guy that gets the sword through his chest? Or is that later?
I'm not sure if that is the same couple or not. I think that's a different scenario.
Right, okay.
But I quite liked the effects work.
In terms of the dissolving and reappearing,
yeah,
it's like your environment around you is disappearing.
I think that had the potential to look really cheesy.
Yeah.
But I was quite impressed with that this time around. I don't know. I think that Benson and Moorhead sort of seem to keep VFX in their back pocket unless they absolutely have to use it, which I think is the correct way to do it. Because in the lower budget stuff, obviously there wasn't the budget for it. And I think, I don't know, anybody who's come from low budget filmmaking, I think it shows. I think it is evident when somebody's had to sort of scrimp and be as imaginative as possible.
Yeah, and just had to do a lot of the things themselves. Like I know that they do their own VFX.
Do
probably
they?
Not true of the Marvel stuff now.
Right, yeah, unlikely.
But yeah, certainly the Endless. I think I watched like a 10-minute behind the scenes thing with an interview with them for on your Sweet Arrow release last night, and I think they were talking about the VFX then and how they got a bit better at it, so they started using it a bit more. But yeah, I suppose you're limited by a budget, which is, like you say, that is a good thing sometimes. If you don't have endless resources, you've got to be more creative, and that can often be a good thing for the project, and particularly in these types of things as well. It'd be quite probably tempting to, if you've got endless resources, to go overboard with it. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of what I was getting at. And also, I don't know, I think that the sort of things that they make films about, I think, yes, the temptation would be to lean on VFX, but also it's such a delicate tightrope act, because if you do depend on the VFX and they look crap, then that sort of, I don't want to say like nullifies your film, but it makes it so that much harder to take seriously.
Yeah, it sort of takes me out of the movie. I can only speak for myself, but when I see something that is particularly jarring and not done very well, I'm like, oh, and I kind of remember that I'm watching a movie. Whereas you don't want that to be the case. You can have your Marvels where it's big budget and huge action set pieces where that's what you're there for. But when you're watching an independent indie sci-fi movie like these, you want good sci-fi movies are more about human nature and just us as people and very human themes. So to explore that and put in huge special effects, like you say, kind of zeroes that out to a certain degree and it takes you out of it. I want there to be the humanity, the themes, but a little peppering of sci-fi. It can be more of just a concept that they talk about. A good example of that, I would say, is the movie Coherence, where there's almost no visual effects in that film, but it's about like a really crazy concept, and you don't need any effects. You can just do it by shooting actors from multiple perspectives. Let's not spoil it, maybe.
Yeah.
That's a good example, I think, of a sci-fi movie, a really good sci-fi movie that doesn't need to use effects.
That one could have been a play.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
If I were to offer you some Synchronic, would you take it?
No.
Why?
Because it doesn't work out for anyone in this movie particularly well.
It seems quite dangerous.
I don't want to get bitten by a snake.
Ideally, I don't want to get bitten by a snake. Yeah.
Or shanked by a pirate or whatever.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I would be curious to take it.
Yeah, I know you would be.
Yeah.
No shit.
I mean, definitely, like, Dan, you've got a week to live, then yeah, I'm definitely taking it.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give me everything.
Yeah, at that point.
Yeah.
Just there sniffing cleaning products in the kitchen.
Sniffing glue and rocking in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, if I knew I had a small finite number of days, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll get taken out by a woolly mammoth.
What if
if I get to see one before I die, that'll be worth it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be in that scenario. What if you go back and you just you land in a T-Rex's mouth?
Well, then that's far from ideal, isn't it?
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen.
That would be tremendously unlucky.
It would be tremendously unlucky, wouldn't it? Yeah. But more likely that than landing exactly where another human is.
Yeah, and teaching them about fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about a butterfly effect.
Yeah. Who knows what effect that had? I didn't really explore it, but God, yeah, you could have come back and Biff Tannen had a tower. And, it's interesting that it's a made up drug, and it is also a synthetic drug. It's a man-made drug in the movie, because you get that one scene when Mackie learns about the drug and he tries to procure all of them from the head shop, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's technically legal.
Well, that's how they get around it. All these designer drugs, basically, they take an existing drug and tweak it to the point where it sort of no longer can be classed as that other drug.
Yeah.
And therefore they skirt the legalities of it for a short time.
I wonder what the movie, if it was trying to say anything at all about synthetic drugs and the loopholes, I guess. Is it that, when you have something man-made that, and I guess less, well, not a traditional or natural drug, if you want to call it that, like, is it more critical of that? Is it saying, well, why do we need to make things that are like these things when we have these things? Because if we do that, it's potentially more dangerous. You're fucking with something that's perfectly natural, and maybe you'll go travel in time and get shanked by a French person. So let's not do that, because that's dangerous.
I didn't get that from this movie.
Right. I might be reaching around, I don't know.
Reaching around. Careful. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I would be more inclined to say that perhaps it's a statement on the epidemic of things like opioids in America, particularly because the main characters are paramedics, and I'm sure they have to deal with God knows how many accidental overdoses from things like fentanyl and whatever else that is, that they access initially from a prescriber.
Yeah. But it's because also the Mackie character is an addict, right?
I don't know if I would go as far as to say he's an addict, but he's certainly like they talk about the fact that he maybe drinks quite a lot and does do recreational drugs. Yeah. And his friend is a bit disapproving of it, thinks he should have grown up by now. Yeah.
Yeah, you have that interesting Arrested Development side of him, which is actually similar to what I feel about the characters in the Trainspotting that we spoke about last week, where they're kind of older they're kind of 25-year-old, 16-year-olds. And maybe that's true of the Mackie character in this to a degree, where he's in his 40s, but it sounds like he's going out most nights and drinking and meeting.
Yeah, you can't do that shit in your 40s. I speak from experience. Well, yeah. It doesn't work out well.
He's self-medicating to a degree. Like, he's already trying to not face reality as much as he can by self-medicating, by drinking, by smoking, by robbing codeine from the like the painkillers. Some of that could be to do with his pain that he has in his head on account of the tumour.
I was just about to say that. I wasn't sure how long running this had been, or whether he was just sort of out of desperation to rid himself of these headaches he'd been getting, was just leaning on harder and harder substances. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because you don't get much time with these people. You do. How long would you say is the course of the movie? Like, are we talking a week, a few days?
I don't think it's very long. No, I think under a week, because the teenage daughter has been missing for a few days, but I don't think it's been like lengthy period of time.
It feels to me like it's a week or something.
Yeah, about that, I would
maybe.
say.
So you don't spend a lot of time with these characters in terms of their lifespan, and you get dropped right into the middle of their lives, essentially. And that's obviously by design.
That's something I really enjoyed about this movie, actually. There's no real sort of extraneous dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even introduced to them first. We see the drug users and the experiences that they're having, and then it's not until they're called to that site as paramedics that we're getting to know them on the job. And I don't know, I kind of love some of those early scenes, actually. I find them really immersive. The scene where they go to, I don't know what you would call it, like, I think Gen Z calls it like a trap house now. Like, it sounds so old and so white saying that.
That is.
Just like a drugs house. I don't know.
I know what that is.
Yeah, I know you do.
I'll have to cut that out, won't I?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's almost, I don't want to go as far as to say like video gamey, but the scene where they're sort of trying to figure out exactly what's gone on, why this person's on the floor and they're not responding, why this person's been stabbed, why there's a fucking, whatever you call them, what are those swords?
Swords, I don't know.
Like a cutlass stuck in the wall, that sort of thing. And the camera's moving really dynamically and it never stops during that scene. And I really sort of felt like the tension and the anticipation of what the characters must be feeling and how kind of high pressure and fast moving that job must be.
Yeah. That was shot really well, that scene, actually, now you mention it. Yeah, I enjoyed that too. It was a very fluid movement of camera, and it seemed to be quite a long take as well, and it's exploring the room and moving around the room. It reminded me a little bit of the show we've been watching recently, The Studio. Just how much that camera just follows the characters.
Yeah.
I watched the behind-the-scenes thing with what's his name? Ike Baron Holtz, and it was the one where he gets the sauce like lobbed over him, and it's not spoiled that show. It's brilliant. You should watch it. But yeah, sort of just how much work the camera people do just to follow people around. It must be. It's just. I don't think people appreciate enough camera operators.
Yeah, agreed.
Like it's probably the most important job when you think about it. Obviously, you have the DP and the directors who are managing that situation, but they're literally doing it, and it works really well in that scene. It did. I do feel like this movie is a little colourless. It's a bit. And I think Endless is very similar as well, having watched that last night. It's very...
I think all of their films tend to be a little bit desaturated.
Yeah. What is that, do you think?
I don't know.
Because I can understand, if it's a choice for a theme for the movie or certain scenes, yeah, I can understand that. But when you do it in every movie, so it's just part of your style. And...
But I remember Spring being quite vibrant.
Right, I was going to ask if that was slightly different. I have a memory in my head of it being quite vibrant, like lots of reds, but then with that movie, a lot of it is about passion, so I can understand why that would be more vibrant. It's just interesting that the last couple we've watched have been quite washed out.
Yeah, and
I wondered what that meant, what meaning, relevance that had. Is that because these characters are not feeling particularly on top of the world? You've got the Mackie character that's literally trying to block out reality. You've got the Jamie Dornan character who hates his wife or sometimes doesn't.
Unsure.
Yeah.
I think maybe
he went through that dry spell and that's why he's a bit...
underappreciates, maybe.
Yeah.
Also, that's Mark Duplass' wife.
Is it?
In real life. Or I think they're still married anyway.
Oh, nice.
Katie Hazelton.
Okay. Oh, I did not know that.
They were both in The League. Yeah, I'm not sure. He seems a bit lifeless, which is weird to say, given that Anthony Mackie's character is the one who's given the terminal diagnosis, and he seems full of life.
He does seem full of life. How much of that is because he's medicating? I mean, he's Mackie, like he's a naturally charming actor.
Yes.
So it's a very good casting in that sense. But it is interesting and weird, like you say, that he's the one that gets a diagnosis, but yet is the more upbeat he's still making jokes. It doesn't seem to bother him that much.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I would say, I don't know, maybe having this time travel project has definitely perked him up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that maybe having this, as you say, a time travel project, kind of maybe gives him a reason to live, the irony is that he doesn't have long to live, and all of this time that he has been trying to run away from reality, perhaps mortality itself, death itself. Now he's in a situation where he can time travel with a drug, and his friend's daughter, who I guess is kind of like a daughter to him as well, because they're quite old friends. They go way back, so he's always been a part of her life. And
I get the impression they each only have one friend.
Yeah, exactly. And they work together every day. They would just fuck. Like, come on.
At that point, yeah. Get a room.
I want a paternity test. I think that's my daughter. It's interesting that the Mackie character, it's almost like he comes alive when he gets a diagnosis, because he has a purpose, I feel like. Now he has an important thing that he has to do. Even though he is a paramedic and he's doing one of the most important jobs that you could do, it's interesting that he's not very interested in that. Why is he doing that job? I don't know, but he seems lifeless until he gets that diagnosis, which could be coincidental because it ties in with the daughter taking the Synchronic and going missing. But when that happens, he's like, oh, okay, well, now I've got to do this thing. And suddenly he comes to life and he's got motivation and he wants to do this thing. I guess he doesn't have much time left, and he knows that he's the only one that can do this.
I think that's sort of reported by a lot of people who receive those kind of diagnoses. I mean, not the time travel stuff. That's
that's less reported on.
That's that's way less common.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so few people really want to die. So I think when you're told that you are going to, in no uncertain terms, and you're kind of given a time frame, then it probably does give you a bit of a kick up the arse, right?
Yeah, it must do. Yeah. I suppose it's probably different for everybody, but you've got X amount of time to live. What are you going to do with that time? Well, I've been saving up to buy a house.
Solve this missing teenager's case. And
I think I'm going to take a time travel drug.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
That's been likened to both ayahuasca and DMT.
Yeah.
So here's something I don't understand. Everything I know about the pineal gland, I learned from Beyond.
I knew that he was going to mention From Beyond. Yeah.
So I'm not terrifically well versed.
In this movie, it doesn't pop out your forehead, though. And
it doesn't,
move around
no.
like a very thin penis.
Jeffrey Combs is nowhere to be seen.
No.
More's the pity.
Yeah.
But so they basically the rules in this film then are that the daughter was able to go missing because her pineal gland isn't fully formed yet, because she hasn't hit 25.
It hasn't calcified.
Yeah. Like, is that the same as like when your frontal lobe, your frontal cortex kind of solidifies? Is that the same thing?
Sure.
Is that what people talk about?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Definitely.
Like, you don't fully kind of intellectually mature until you're about 25.
Yeah.
So younger people, and also in his case, because his tumor is in such a specific place, it's kind of prevented his pineal gland from calcifying. So that's why he is able to do this. But what about the couple at the beginning?
Well,
they didn't look under 25.
I thought that they were quite young. But I thought, so was it that you can only take it, or you can only travel in time if you're under a certain age?
Yeah.
I thought everyone could travel in time, but how old you are depended on where you went and how long you stayed there for. That's what I thought.
We're coming at this from different angles, aren't we?
Yeah, which is a very common thing. But it's why it's interesting to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Like, I don't know much about pineal glands.
No, me either. Like I was saying.
My knowledge of pineal glands is less than yours, because I've only seen From Beyond once. But it's interesting that it's literally a matter of age whether or not the pineal gland is calcified. I've no idea if any of this is real.
No,
I don't even know if a pineal gland is a real thing.
Yeah, all right. It was me thinking you had a PhD.
But it's interesting that they're saying that his hasn't calcified because of the tumour.
Yeah.
And he is also in a state of arrested development where he hasn't quite grown up. And is that literally because of that? Or is that more of his personality? Are they both the same thing? I guess they are to a degree. It does fit when you think about it.
Interesting. That would explain why he was a little bit more immature than his friend.
But loves dogs.
Not enough. Not enough for my money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that really pissed me off. Poor Hawking.
Yeah. Oh, Hawking. Yeah. They just left him in that time period.
Yeah, which again is sort of a callback to Back to the Future.
Yeah, the dog in that is called Einstein, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, of course, yeah.
And doesn't he use the dog to sort of test
The DeLorean.
a theory?
Well, they put him in a DeLorean, don't they, in the first movie when they just whiz him into the past or whatever by a minute or something?
I can't remember. I was so sad. That scene where you can just, obviously he's come back to the present, but he couldn't bring the dog. And there's just the dog at the window and the image is flickering. I'm like, no, what are you doing?
You started tearing up, didn't you?
It's horrendous.
Yeah.
Poor Hawking.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like it.
Yeah. But maybe Hawking is his own dad. And that's fun to think about, isn't it? Maybe it's a predestination situation where he's his own mum and he's his own dad.
Oh, my brain hurts.
Oh no, spoilers for Predestination, I guess. But it's an old movie, you should see it. It's very good.
It is very good. Sarah Snook is amazing.
I remember when I first suggested to Albert to watch that, and he watched it and he went, "What the fuck was that about?" And I tried to explain it to him. He was like, "I don't get it." But it was a fun conversation. It was much like our Inception conversation.
I see. Why do we think that they can only go back in time for 7 minutes? Is that relevant?
Oh, was that
in some way? Yeah.
Was it 7 minutes?
They only get 7 minutes. And if he's not in the exact same geographical place once the 7 minutes are up, then that's why Hawking gets left.
It must be to do with dosage, I guess, or how much pineal gland you've got. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not a doctor, are you?
No, I'm not. Even though I wear that white coat sometimes. I don't know. I mean, given that it comes in the shiny packaging and it's like a marketed and like probably has the exact amount, each dose is exactly the same. It's probably a dosage thing. Like if you double dropped, then you could probably go for 14 minutes maybe. Or maybe it's like a snowball effect where if you double drop, like you'll go for like a year.
I would have liked to see that explored.
Yeah, sequel would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe you do go back for a year and you invent Synchronic.
I don't think they could do a sequel because one thing I do like about this film is, I don't know, I find their filmmaking to be quite economical.
Oh, yeah, it has to be.
Despite their stuff being quite, I mean, you could describe it as slow burn.
Yeah, definitely slow burn, yeah.
But I do think it's quite economical. And there's a really good example of that when I think Anthony Mackie's in the car. I can't remember the specifics, but it's either on the TV or the radio and they're hearing about Dr. Kamani, who is the guy who broke into his house. And it turns out he was the chemist that actually manufactured the Synchronic. And you just hear that little bit of a news bulletin saying that he'd been found dead.
Yeah, there are elements.
But that's like a really neat way of going, oh, fuck, so this is really all he's got. Nobody can make any more.
Yeah. So you've got that side of it where you can't get any more of it. But also like you get the introduction of a conspiracy there. And perhaps thematically linking in more with something in the dirt as well with the conspiracy theories that they spoke about in that. Or thematically anyway. Like, yeah, because my brain, when I heard that, I'm thinking, oh, the government's got hold of this. Now they want to take it for themselves. The doctor is trying to do the right thing and get all of this stuff off the streets because people are getting eaten by dinosaurs and shanked with samurai swords.
Yeah, because people are just waking up in T-Rex's mouths willy-nilly.
Exactly. It's become a problem.
Yeah, it's a real issue.
No one would have ever imagined that would become such a problem, but it has. But yeah, no, that screamed to me of government cover-up. And maybe that's where you could come in for the sequel. Maybe you make it from a perspective of a government agent, like let's put it in the Paul universe and have Jason Bateman come back as Lorenzo Zoil. And he's going around trying to get all the Synchronic for the government.
I prefer my gritty sequel idea where it turns out that the Sacklers have been producing Synchronic to overshadow their misdeeds.
All right, that's not a bad idea.
Anything we can do to demonize the Sackler family more.
Are we getting Broderick back as Mr. Sackler?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Let's put it in that universe. Let's put it in a Ferris Bueller universe as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that mean we have to bring back Cameron as well?
Yeah, you have to.
Alan Rock.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'm in.
Let my Cameron go. We've got to talk about Ferris Bueller one day.
We will, I'm sure. Did you perhaps spot some of the many, many links to The Endless and well, I was going to say Resolution, but you've never seen that one, have you?
I thought you were going to say Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah, there's loads of parallels between this and Reservoir Dogs.
Tim Roth's bleeding from a stomach.
Yeah.
I didn't actually, because it's been a long, long time since I'd seen The Endless. And we watched it last night, but that was after we'd watched Synchronic. So please tell me what... I understand that there's some continuity in these movies with their universes, but what?
Very much so. Well, obviously, like the most obvious comparisons are between Resolution and The Endless, because they quite literally use some of the same characters.
And some of the same footage as well,
which I think is really cleverly done, by the way. But yeah, so this is sort of, I guess you could say all of their films are kind of in a shared universe. I think that's confirmed. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Like, obviously in The Endless, they're smoking some sort of drug that they say is kind of comes from a red flower that's grown in the California desert. And Synchronic, they mention, was also synthesized using a red flower grown in the desert.
Right.
So similar kind of properties, perhaps, in that drug. Something that I really like, my favorite one, I think, is when he goes back in time, there's like a shaman that he meets, and the shaman's holding like a stick rod thing. And it looks exactly like the weird sort of, I don't know what you'd call them, like the demarcation points in The Endless.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know.
That kind of signal where the loop.
Like the barrier things.
Yeah, like the where the loop extends to.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't pick up on any of that. As I say, such a long time since I'd seen The Endless, but now you mention it, all of those things seem... It's just that through line with all of their movies. So what you're saying is that all of their movies have had drugs in them?
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? Like, we could have had a few of their movies in this one.
Resolution definitely would have fit.
Resolution, definitely. I mean, The Endless probably less so, like there are drugs in it. And by the way, I think that's kind of largely irrelevant that they're having this thing, but it's just part of that world building, I guess, that they like to do. But it's interesting that that's something that, as well as the timey-wimey aspect from all of their stuff that they've done independently, right up until Loki, where we're still dealing with time travel multiverses. And maybe that's partly why they got that gig.
I genuinely think so. So what are your feelings about the climax of this movie?
I don't know. It was all right, I guess. Like, it was a bit, I suppose it's a bit bleak, but also kind of optimistic that he's
Do you think
appreciating.
It's bleak?
Yeah, I mean, he gets trapped in the past.
Yeah, but he's only got like 3 weeks to live anyway.
What I was saying is that it's a bit bleak, but on the other hand, it's kind of optimistic as well, because he does come to appreciate the present moment. He has that moment where he's sitting on a rock and he's saying, and actually right now is the best. It's great. But I think part of that is because he's literally gone into the past and been like, oh yeah, in the past, you'd have poo thrown at you.
Yeah, everything sucks.
Like, it's like you get cholera, you've got spears thrown at you, you might get set on fire.
Nobody lives past 38.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the worst.
There's no dental plan. There's no penicillin. So he's just like, actually, no, this is not bad, is it? Like the time that we're living in now. He comes to appreciate it. So it's kind of like a nice ending in that way. I suppose it depends on your outlook, really, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
if you come to a place where you're accepting of your fate and your place in the world and what that means and the finite nature of it, then it could be seen as a positive. But if you're more of the kind of person that doesn't want to think about that, then it's probably more of a bleak ending. So I think it does well to explore both sides of it, and it's like a grey area. I think it's quite a nice ending. I'm thinking about it and trying to process it in my brain. Literally the last few scenes as well, where he's sort of flashing in and out of the present, back to the past. That's quite a nice way to end it. I don't know how else you would end it. What do you think about the ending?
I think the story comes to its natural conclusion. I'm sad at the fact that he seems so dissatisfied with his life and it ends prematurely. I think that's tragic. And I think there are so many moments throughout the film where it's mentioned that he's effectively jealous of his friend. They talk about, he's gone through all of his friend's wife's friends. There's no one left to
through all of them.
Yeah, but they do have that conversation at the picnic.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And just saying, like, I don't know, it just seems like he really wanted the family unit. He really wanted that stereotypical, like, settling down with a wife and kids. And I think obviously he sacrifices himself out of love for his long-time best friend. But also I think, to my mind, there's a hint of like he views himself as like less important because he hasn't hit those milestones. Like he sort of views his life as not being worth as much.
That's an interesting angle, yeah.
Because like he sacrifices himself so that he can reunite this family.
Yeah, the unit that he's always longed for but hasn't achieved. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because
that to me is quite sad, quite tragic.
Yes, I think, again, like, depends how you look at it. Like, yes, on the one hand, he hasn't literally himself had his own family, but he kind of has, because he has his friend with their daughter and the wife, and they're all very close. They're a very close unit. So, you know, things are not always going to work out how you planned them to, but in other ways, he's incredibly lucky to have had what he had. So it depends how you look at it. I think there are many people that would just want mates, just friends who they can rely on. Maybe a sweet paramedic job where you could rob codeine off the back of it. Like, that sounds great to me. I don't want to deal with all of the claret all over the place. Like, put plaster on it and fuck off.
I think you'll find it was the ambulance driver that was stealing the drugs.
Right, yeah, that's right. That's a funny thread throughout the movie as well, where Jamie Dornan's just like, he's a dickhead, and he's right.
Yeah,
it turns out to be quite a good judge of character, which is an interesting and funny part of the movie. Actually, part of what is interesting about Moorhead and Benson's movies is the humour in it. Like, it's very they're not jokes as such, but they're situational and character based stuff.
But that's
just
the
kind
best
of pierces the tension of the movie, which is yeah.
But I think it makes their characters feel way more lived in as well, because that is how real people would react in a situation. Yeah. I personally try and find the humour in anything as a way of coping. So
I don't do that ever.
No. You're never sarcastic either. I just think that's a mistake that a lot of screenwriters make in trying to make their characters react appropriately in a situation. You sort of dehumanize them.
Yeah, that's
whereas
fair.
They do a really good job of making these characters feel realistic,
just human.
Yeah.
Like, what would that be? What would happen if we were in that situation?
Yeah, we're not always going to say the right thing.
Yeah.
No way.
It's interesting. I don't know, really. I'm thinking about the ending now. Is it tragic or is it positive? I think
it depends entirely on your perspective. I think it's
agree.
Tragic because I'm a depressed goth nerd.
You're a bat that dances upside down from a cage.
Yeah. And you're the more optimistic of the two of us, so I think that's perfectly in keeping with how we would each read it.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. I'm just like, oh, he's going to die and he's fine with it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, where the dog? Still stuck on Hawking.
Yeah. It's interesting, actually. It's probably a smarter ending than I first gave it credit for, now I think about it, and the fact that it is a bit grey, and depending on how you view life and your perspective on it, it could be different from person to person, perhaps viewing to viewing as well. There might be a time where I watch this and maybe I'm in a darker place and it's more tragic to me. I don't know. But yeah, that's interesting.
One thing I didn't like is the effect at the end and the hand holding. Like, I know, I get it. That's how we opened. That's how we're ending. But just like see through Anthony Mackie, I don't know, man.
You prefer when you can see all of him?
I prefer everyone when they're in their full sort of solid corporeal form.
I disagree. I think I would prefer to see Jim Davison as Ghost.
See through, yeah, that's see-through. All right. I'll allow that. But yeah, that one crossed over into too schmaltzy for me. And I know they'd kind of set the precedent with the dog kind of flickering at the window, so it was something that we'd been primed for, but I just didn't like it. It was too schmaltzy.
I suppose it does feel like a bit of a narrative convenience that would happen, because they do introduce it with the dog, but when you think about it, what reason would that be? Why is he still somehow anchored in the present?
Something pineal gland.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of this movie really don't you shouldn't really overanalyze and think about it too much, the mechanics of the time travel in any case.
If you get into the nitty-gritty, it makes my head hurt, because if something's affecting your pineal gland, then why is your physical form being transported to another time? Surely it would just be
in your head,
mental.
Yeah.
But then what is reality? And then you just risk opening too many doors and going down that road, and now's not the time.
Yeah, but like any time travel movie that you can think about, like if you think about it for more than a minute, then there is no answer. Like, why is Terminator a thing? Who sent the first Kyle Reese back? If it was all hunky dory and there was no war, why did they send one back? And in that Armin T2, that created a whole nother paradox. Like, when you get into all of this stuff, it doesn't make any sense with any time travel movies. So with any time travel movie, you have to just
there have to be some allowances.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you find it was a bit the narrative convenience aside from the time travel flashing in and out of past, present, whatever? Aside from that, the fact that they ended with hand holding as well as starting with it, do you think did that seem a bit much to you? Like, not that.
No, I mean it is a bit of a
it.
contrivance, but I think the movie in itself is sort of about human connection, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So from that perspective, that makes perfect sense. That bit didn't bother me.
I think that's all what this movie is about. Like, period. Like, it's that's all we've got. And let's enjoy it.
Sometimes a woolly mammoth.
And sometimes a woolly mammoth. Yeah. But that's all we've got. And, well, get used to it, because that's what we've got now. And it's brilliant. But one day we won't. So let's enjoy it now.
Yeah. I think that the ultimate message is you're fucked. Your pineal gland has calcified. Crack on.
Yeah.
We should make t-shirts.
That should be your review on Letterboxd as well.
Your mum's pineal gland's calcified. That's my new favourite insult.
Yeah, very good. Good choice, actually. I'm glad you chose this one. It's because it's got something that I really like, the time travel stuff. I wasn't sure really where this conversation was going to go.
Same.
But
I know that the high concept sci-fi stuff tends to be more your deal than mine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've kind of always said that, but the more I look through the films that I enjoy, the more I'm just like, maybe I've underestimated how much I care for these types of films.
Yeah. You also love movies that are set in New Orleans.
And I do, yeah. This, Hard Target, notoriously one of my favourites.
Yeah. Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans.
Yeah, which I loved.
Yeah. You loved the Nicolas Cage character in that as well.
He wasn't at all disgusting.
No. He was a hero.
Yeah. I think it's a good movie. I think people were a little bit harsh about it.
I mean, it sounds like I agree with you. I wasn't aware of how divisive this movie was.
And I wasn't until yesterday.
And I'm surprised at that. Like I say, I don't think what is my favourite Moorhead and Benson? It probably is The Endless. Probably just about. But I have not seen, I thought I'd seen Resolution, but on reflection, I don't think I have.
I think we should give Something in the Dirt another go.
I agree. I would like to give that one another go.
I really enjoyed that.
But I really liked Spring as well. Spring was excellent too. So I feel like they're very consistent. From what I've seen, they're all like pretty similar grounds, but this one is just maybe just slightly below Spring and The Endless.
I agree.
But still, like, very interesting.
Still a solid movie.
We've not struggled with conversation or different avenues to go down.
No.
So there's plenty to unpack there. And yeah, a sequel where you bring back Jason Bateman as Lorenzo Zoil, I think is the route that we need to go down. Okay. I don't know what we're doing next week. Is this your season? I know. This is where I'm going to defer to you to help me out. It's funny. I did I forgot to do the season lineup for Patreon. Oh, yeah. And I did that today. So I was looking through the lineup, so I know exactly what we're doing next week. But it also occurred to me that we have, not going to give away anything, but 50% of our movies in this season are 90s movies. Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And more of them are very nearly 90s movies. So that being said, we're sticking with the 90s next season, and we're going back to the year 1999 for... Oh, go! Yes. I love that movie. So do I. Spoilers. Oh, Lord. I'm so excited for this one. And I think we're going to need this is going to be a good fun one for me to watch, because the next couple after that are pretty harrowing, and I think I'm going to have a pretty bleak experience with them. So I'm going to enjoy this one.
Maybe you'll love them.
Mate,
you never know.
I'm not saying I won't love them, but they might be a bit bleak for my liking.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to this brand new Blu-ray of Go here.
I've already got Magic Carpet Ride going on in my head, so
I've got no doubt.
Awesome. Can't wait.